Hey, we are live. So, welcome back and hello to everyone who's watching this episode. Sorry for the delay. We were having some technical challenges, but we're here and we're live. So, this month I have a very interesting topic. Can you hear me now, Steve?
Yes, I just had the
Yes, I
YouTube
just had the YouTube tab open, but yeah, you can go ahead now.
Okay. Yeah, so those were some of the challenges we were having. But I'd like to welcome everyone who's here. Thank you so much for joining in on this month's episode. I know we've spoken about AI before, but this time we're doing something different because it's not as technical as the other episodes. We have spoken about just AI in general and we have spoken about AI for businesses, but this time we are gonna keep it light and we're gonna discuss AI for everybody, just how everyone can use AI and how everyone else can benefit from it without having to be a technical or a tech genius. So this week I have a special guest. I have my friend Steve. So Steve is the founder of Kachere AI, as I said on the flyers. Kachere AI is what he calls your AI lawyer. So without wasting much time, I'm just gonna give it over to you, Steve. I'd ask you to introduce yourself. Let us know a bit about your background, what you've been up to, and what you're currently working on now. Yeah. So over to you, Steve.
All right, thanks. I think just on the technical bit of things, if the audience can hear any echo, I think just give a shout. We're still trying to figure out exactly the problem over there. So yeah, if you can hear any echoes, just give us a shout and we're going to try and sort that out. The question, an overview of Kachere, is that it? Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Kachere
so
and yourself.
oh yeah, yeah. Let's say, what am I? So, Kajere AI is like I think like Phyllis has said, AI lawyer. So I mean, you'd imagine, like what's this thing about? I mean, I could go and ask ChatGPT about any legal things that I already have. It's like, what's so special about this thing? Um, so let's do this. Yes, can you hear me? Is there still an echo? Okay. Um. So. Ye- oh, okay. What's up, Mike? Yes. So what Kajeri is basically is that it is an AI lawyer specifically on Malawian context. So right now, as it stands, you could go and ask ChatGPT about, let's say, anything that you want. Really, I mean, as everyone has been using ChatGPT lately, you could ask it about anything that you want, anything that you're thinking about, and it's going to give you an answer. The only problem is that a lot of it lacks context to the Malawian scene. You see, so when you ask it about Malawian stuff, it's probably gonna give you an answer, but something that might not be very accurate to the Malawian context. So that's what we're trying to do with Kajere, which is like build an AI tool that is gonna be centered or rather has a lot of context in the Malawi situation, where the things that OpenAI or ChatGPT and all of those other AI tools out there might fall short of, Kajere comes in to fill that space. You know how certain things, you Google certain things and Google doesn't give you the right answer because it doesn't really know. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to fix that with Kajere. So that's what we're trying to do over there. So that's what Kajere is right now. Right now, it's a legal, it's an AI lawyer, but eventually it's gonna turn into something that's a super app for lack of a better term, where you can find so many things on it and anything that you might need, you might get through Kajere. Moving on to, I think, who I am. I think over the years I have failed to find a description or a title for who I am, and people have given me titles that I don't really think fit. I think last week somebody was calling me an entrepreneur, which is I honestly don't think I'm an entrepreneur. But like the way best way I'd like to describe myself is I'm a doer of things. So yeah, I just really just do things. So I think over the years I've come to do things that might look entrepreneur, that maybe might be entrepreneur. Some other things that are just me doing things that off the top of my head, from like running events, running different projects, whether AI or just tech enabled stuff. Part of me is tech evangelism. Part of me is just also just building software in general. But at the core of it, on a day to day, I'm a software developer that just likes doing things. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. I mean, you really are a lot of things. I know a couple of things that we haven't spoken about on the intro. You've done Audible. You've done Hello World. Hello World. That's a nice event. So because we've lost time already, I think let's just get up to doing the presentation, because we've had a presentation for us. That's going to be an introduction of how AI can be used
Okay.
or utilized by everyone. So how it can benefit people without necessarily doing any software development or any coding or anything complex. So yeah, over to you.
All right. Thanks. So yeah, just finding fun. I think on the intro there, I think I need to come up with a proper intro because I keep forgetting so many things that I have done over the years. But yeah, anyway, just getting into it. I'm not too sure how I'm supposed to start my presentation here. How do I put it up?
Just add it to the stage.
Okay. Click present. I've clicked air for the rest of us. Add to the stage. Oh, sorry. Present slides. No, let me try and do this where I share my screen, I think, instead.
Okay.
Yeah. Google Drive, Kachere AI, slideshow, share screen, window. Unfortunately, it needs me to like quit and then join again. I don't want to do that. Are you able to like share it from your end?
Not from my phone.
Oh.
I think you can just do the presentation like this. And I'll try to join it on my computer.
Okay, or I can just send you the link for the presentation. Maybe you can share it. Does that work?
Yeah, let's try that as well.
Okay, cool. Let me just try something really quickly. Apologies. Let me share this. Share.
Okay, I have shared it.
Oh, you managed to share it? Oh, okay, that's great then.
Yeah, it's on the screen. Start going through it.
Okay. Okay, so AI for everyday use. So yeah, so I have this talk I think that I like to take around. I think it's taken many shapes and forms over the years, over the couple months, not years. AI hasn't been around that long. It's taken different shapes. I think over the couple of months since I've been doing this talk. It's taken the shape of Fix Your Grades with AI. It's gone and taken the title AI for the Rest of Us, which is like a physical event that I did I think a couple weeks ago, and then now I think AI for the rest for everyday use. So basically, what I'm trying to do with this is just speak about AI in a way where it makes sense for every ordinary person, if you could call it that. Because I think what happens when there's some new tech stuff is it gets absorbed mainly by people that are already in AI, or rather that are already in tech, you know. So what we'd like to do here is basically just look into the different aspects where everyone else can use AI and how it can be beneficial to them, and come up with skills that are like that make sense for everyone else, regardless of the industry that you're in, or whether you're in tech, or whether you're familiar with tech, or you just don't know tech at all. So let me just get straight into it because I think we started a bit late. So let me get into the main part of it. So the main part of AI for the rest of us is, or rather AI for everyday use, is just looking at first, like the slide says here, how to think about AI. That's the first step, you know. So I like to put AI in like two different aspects, which is AI could be for you an answer machine, or it could be a thinking companion, where you could decide that, you know what, every question that I have, I'll just ask AI and it gives me an answer. And for sure, it will give you an answer. But the problem there is you don't think. You're not thinking anymore. You've outsourced your thinking, which, if you do that for a long enough time, it puts you in a space where you don't understand things. So, I mean, apologies, and a disclaimer is that I'm going to refer to two things a lot, which is like student life, but also software engineering, which are the spaces that I'm in. But just bear with me. I'm gonna avoid getting too deep into them because this is not a technical session. But like that's just the context I'm in. So, for instance, one of the issues that I've been facing, let's say lately, and a friend I was having a chat about this in the afternoon, where the problem with using AI so much in like software development is you forget certain things, like something as simple as a function definition, which, let's say, to the ordinary person would be something as simply trying to write a letter. You don't know how to write the salutation, or you don't know how to write the addresses in a letter. You get? Because every time you need to write those things, you just tell AI, can you write the address for this particular person? And it automatically writes this. So if you do this almost like 10 times, assuming you write so many letters, you're going to forget how you write this. You're going to forget how you address people. You see? Because you've done this so many times, you've outsourced this so many times. So you forget. And this creates a problem, which is like, okay, what then is my job? You know, what then? How then do I fit into all of this? So my thing is like, I don't want to cut out AI because that's how you end up on the side, and that's how you end up, avoiding tech and hating tech. But also, I'm currently trying to understand is like, how does AI fit into my life, fit into my workflows in a manner that it makes sense for me, but also at the same time, it doesn't replace my thinking, you know. So I've been lately giving a lot this example where the way tech works and has always worked since its inception is what tech does in every revolution or in every iteration that it comes up. All that tech is it creates an abstraction layer. What I mean by that is, I don't know if you've watched old movies where when somebody makes a phone call, they go to a call center. That phone call goes to a call center, and there's some person that like plugs in a different cable to a different, let's say, plug or a different hole, which takes them to the destination that they're trying to get to. You see? So if I'm trying to call Phyllis right now, I call the call center and I tell the call center that I'm trying to reach Phyllis, and they tell me that, okay, Phyllis is in X location, and they're gonna connect me to the right hole or to the right connection, and it gets me to Phyllis. You see? So I moved from that layer, which we could call the analog layer, to then going to a digital layer, which automatically did this switching, which is like, instead of me speaking to an agent at a call center, it automatically does this. But at the underlying level, at the end of the day, all that's happening is like, this cable is being moved to this other cable. You see? So it got automated. And then from that, it got even more automated. So like, if you go to, let's say, for the Malawians on the call, if you go to MTL, Airtel, or TNM, at the end of the day, at the low level, what's happening is that all they're doing is they're switching phone calls. It's like, if I call this person, if I call this person, they're basically redirecting me based on these switchboards. Um, what's so all that's happened is it's moved from a manual step, it's gone to an automated step or a digital step. So an abstraction. So going from this analog step to going to the next step, the digital one, is what we call abstraction, is you've abstracted this particular layer. So over the years, that's what tech does. You see, it removes the analog analog stuff or the manual stuff and just creates steps over steps over steps over steps. That's what tech does in general. So this step that we're in with AI is just a much drastic step, which has created an abstraction. So what it does, what it's doing now basically is that, for instance, if we get into, I'm going to touch on a couple of things and then get into the details later. For instance, the issue about people being afraid of, oh no, AI is going to take my job. It probably will. But at the same time, is that what do you do with that? What you do is that if you are the person that was moving cables between portholes, you then now move to the other layer, which is okay, you now manage the digital system. You see, so a job that probably took like 5 people now takes 1 person, and what you want to do is be that 1 person. You get? So it's created an abstraction layer on top of this thing. So yeah, the way to think about AI, let me just come back to this, which is the way to think about AI is trying to think about it as a thing that helps you think in the different ways. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to refer to the whole student life thing, where typical student life is you get an assignment, they give you an assignment today, that's due in 2 weeks. You don't touch it, you go to it a day before when you know that it's due in 3 hours. You see? So you take this assignment, you give it to ChatGPT, and you tell it, hey, Chief, I need a 20-page essay. You see? I need you to write a 20-page essay that I need to submit. And Chat is going to give you a 20-page essay indeed, and you're going to submit it, except you don't know anything about the essay, which creates a problem where you don't know anything. So if you're a first-year student doing this, by the time you're graduating, you kind of really don't know anything, which creates a problem, which is okay, so you don't know anything. So unfortunately, you don't have much use. Unfortunately, might be strong words, but that's just how it is. So you want to avoid that, you see. So the way you want to use AI is in a manner where it's a companion of you thinking, where you have an assignment. Let's go back to the assignment example. You have an assignment. You have, let's say, you're doing a project management course. You've been given that, okay, identify a project, give us an outline and how we're going to go through this particular project. What you want to do is tell Chat that, okay, these are my thoughts so far. This is a project that I'd like to work on. It's in this particular domain. These are the things that I'd like to work on so far. Help me expand on them. You know, another example is one of writing, where I think one of my friends does this a lot, where she'll say she writes a lot. So instead of asking Chat to write articles for her, which might be the default way of thinking of things, but like you could say, you could write everything else and you go to Chat and tell it, Chat, you are a literature lecturer or teacher. Can you grade this work that I've done so far? You get? So you tell it, grade me between A and an F. And Chat tells you, yeah, I think you've gotten a C. And then from that C, Chat explains to you why you've gotten a C. So it explains to you why you've gotten a C, and then you go and amend these particular things. So this helps you think and improves your skill in writing. It's opposed to you going to tell Chat that, okay, I have a 10-page essay. Can you write this 10-page essay for me? You see, you've not thought about anything. You don't know about the essay. So you've lost knowledge. You've lost your capacity to think. And yeah, it's the judgment. It's a judgment to you in the long run, because you're just going to lose your ability to think. And you don't want to do this. You see, so the space you'd want to be in is in a space where AI is a companion of thought, is a companion as you think and as you go through your particular task, regardless of what they are. Can you please go to the next slide? Yes. So in this talk, basically, I'm going to go through 3 main things, which is firstly prompt engineering, do's and don'ts, and this concept about context is king. I'm going to explain that further later on. So prompt engineering, I'm pretty sure we've all gone through scenarios where you ask Chat something and you're like, what's this response? You know, it's like you ask it something and it's like, that's totally not what I was asking for. It's so left, it's so wrong. And you're like, okay, now you need to start like begging it or trying to clarify that, okay, this is what I meant. This is not what I wanted you to give me and whatnot. You know, it could give you the right answer, but the wrong output. It could give you the right output, but the wrong answer per se, you know, something of that sort. So prompt engineering, what prompt engineering does basically is it helps you get the best response from whatever AI tools. So the things that I'd like to go through in this particular talk are things that are relevant regardless of the talk that you're doing at the time. You see, sorry, not not the talk, but rather the tool that you're using at the time. You see, so I was speaking about this, I think yesterday, where it's like this is information that is relevant regardless of the tools. You could use this in tools that came out 5 years ago, that came out 3 months ago, or that are going to come out next month. You see, this information is still going to be relevant because that's just how AI works, where the prompts that you write are very important. So, just to come back to the definitions, what is a prompt? A prompt is basically a fancy word for the message that you send to chat. So, you open chat and you type in a message, that's a prompt. So we're going to talk about how to write a great prompt that gives you the right answer on almost the first try every time you talk to chat. And then the do's and don'ts, things that you should avoid doing when you're talking to AI, trying to get answers from AI. We're going to talk about that too. And then finally, context is king. Context is what I consider the holy grail in AI. This is one of the most important things you could consider or take into account as you have your conversations with these AI chatbots. Next slide, please. All right. So prompt engineering. Just coming back to it, a prompt is in the same way when I wanted to give example. I'm not too sure whether I wouldn't be able to present the. I wanted to give examples in like chat, but I think because of technical issues, I won't be able to do that. But prompt engineering is simply what a prompt is. Let's start there. Is simply the message that you send to chat. You go to chat, you open chat, and you tell it, how do I fix my bike? Or how do I fix my car? That's a prompt. You see? But the problem is, say for instance, you have a problem with your car right now, and you go to chat and say, how do I fix my car? That's a very vague statement, you see? Because if I'm a mechanic and you come and ask me, Steve, how do I fix my car? I'm gonna look at you and ask, okay, what's wrong with the car? You see? So that's a terrible prompt because prompts are questions, you know? So that's a terrible question to ask anyone, really. You cannot just come up to somebody and ask them, how do I fix my car? It's like, yeah, what's the problem with it? Is your seat not moving? Is your engine dead? Are your wipers not working? Or maybe your tire has a puncture, you see? So there's a wide spectrum of the things that could be wrong with your car, but you've come to me and simply asked me, help me fix my car. And that's a terrible prompt, which is how you end up with situations where you ask chat something and it gives you a terrible answer. Because at the end of the day, these AI tools are what I call like answer machines. An answer machine, as per its name, will give you an answer. Whether that answer is correct or not is a different discussion. But what is for sure is it will give you an answer. So if you ask it, chat, how do I fix my car? It will give you an answer that you fix your car by doing X, Y, and Z. But that answer is probably wrong to you because it lacks context, you see, which is a very important element in every prompt that you create, you see, because you need to tell it, okay, yeah, sure, what's wrong with your car, you see. So when you say that, okay, my car has an issue, you need to give details about it. So this is a general framework on how you should create your prompt. Firstly, you give it a task. Clearly define what you want the AI to do. You know, I'm going to go through this and then come back to them. And then the next part is you give the AI a role. Tell the AI to what role you want it to assume. Put it in the shoes of who you think would give the best answers. Like I was giving the example of the car, you would not come to me and tell me that something was wrong with your car because, look, firstly, I barely know much about cars like that. Besides just fancying them and wanting nice cars, I honestly don't know much about cars. So if you come and ask me that, okay, my car has a problem, I'll probably refer you to the next mechanic, which is probably the person you need to ask. You see, so you need to give it the role that you look, chat, you're the best mechanic in Blantyre or in Malawi or in the world, you know, and then you proceed with your prompt. And then you go and give it context and you give it guidelines, which is how the AI tool should approach the problem. Ideally, tell it to give you a step-by-step process, something holistic, etc. And then finally, the output format. So let's go back. Task. My car has an issue. You see? So you start with the task and give it and tell it, okay, chat, I'm going to refer to chat here, but this also applies to all other AI tools. But since chat, I think, is what's widely used, I'm going to refer to that. So you go to chat and tell it, chat, my car has an issue. You see? So, and I need you to help me fix it. That's the task. That's a general task. So that's the first part of your statement. So these things that I'm saying are the things that you typically type in into chat or whatever AI tool that you're using. So you go first and tell it the task. Chat, my car has an issue. Can you help me fix it? The next step is you tell it, you are the best mechanic in the city. You are the best mechanic in the world. And then that's the end of that statement. And then you go in and give it the context. It's like, my car has been jerking every time I drive it. It's been shaking. It's been like I'm driving it and it keeps shaking for God knows what reason. This has happened 3 months after the last service and that kind of stuff. You've given it context. And then you could go to the guidelines and tell it, give me a step by step approach to try and figure out what exactly this particular problem is. You see? So let's leave it at the guidelines. So we've given it a task. We've told it, chat, I need you to help me solve this particular problem. And then you've given it a role and told it that it is the best mechanic in the city, the best mechanic in the world. And then you've given it context of that specific situation that you're in, which is like, my car is jerking. How do I solve that? And then you've given it guidelines on how you should approach the problem, which is like, this is how I need you to tell me the problem. Is like, give me step by step processes in how to figure out how to solve this. So you've given it the task, you've given it the role. It's assumed that it's the best engineer in the world, and you've given it context. And then it's going to come and tell you that, yeah, I think maybe fix the plugs in your car. You see, but you don't know where the plugs are. But since you've told it to give you a step by step process, it's going to tell you, okay, open the bonnet in your car, pull this particular cover, and after you pull this particular cover, there's going to be something that looks like X, Y, and Z. And after this thing that looks like X, Y, and Z, pull that thing, and then finally look at whether it has some black color on it or not. If it has a black color on it, then maybe there's an issue with your plugs and you need to go and replace them. You see? So this has a structure where you've given it a task and it knows its role, which is like it's the best engineer in the world. So it knows that, okay, if I'm the best engineer in the world, this is how I'd approach the problem. But also further to that is like, this is the context in which I'm working at. And then this is the way I need to deliver the message that I'm doing. Because sometimes I know how you ask chat for something and it gives you like one paragraph or 10 paragraphs. Which is like, that's not what I'm asking for. You see? It could give you one paragraph and you wanted 10, and you give it 10 paragraphs and you just wanted a quick answer. You see? But the problem is you didn't tell it what output format it is. You see? The example that I was giving last time is you could come to chat and tell it, chat, come up with a house plan. I need a house plan. You see, chat is going to give you a house plan. You see, because it's an answer machine, like I said. So one thing that is for sure, that is definite, is it will give you an answer. The problem is a house plan of what? You see, it will give you a house plan. It could give you a 3-story house that has 6 bedrooms and 3 entrances and a topless roof and I don't know, a bar in it. But you're something that it comes to you and you are somebody that doesn't drink alcohol. The city regulations in your city doesn't allow for multiple story houses, and you only need 2 rooms because it's just you, for instance, you, your partner, and 2 kids at most. You see, why do you need a 6-story house? You don't need that. But the problem is you didn't tell chat these things. You see, so it's given you what you asked for. You gave it a very vague request, and it's given you a generic answer. So what you want to do is go to chat and tell it, chat, I need a house design. That is the task. You are the best architect in the world, specifically maybe in Malawi, so that it has context in which it is working. And then furthermore, I have a family of 3, which is me, my husband, and my wife. We're expecting a child. I like spending my time outdoors, and I need a space that is filled with natural light. You see? The output of this is that I'd like to submit this application to the city council. So what chat is going to do is it's going to give you a design firstly that caters to the things that you have asked for. It's going to give you a house perhaps with big windows, a single story house because the city regulation doesn't allow for multiple story houses. It's going to give you a house that has 2 bedrooms because it's 3 bedrooms, maybe the master bedroom, one for the kid and the other for the one that you're expecting. And then furthermore, I've forgotten the specs of this of this house, but like the natural lighting part and the other stuff. You see, because you've been specific on what you want, you know. And then furthermore to that, you've told it that okay, I just don't want this design, but I want this to be in the format that I can use this to apply to the city council so that they can approve my design. So it's going to give you a document that outlines this is the design, these are the specifications, these are the dimensions of the rooms, this is how much area it's going to cover, the square meter range, and maybe the dimensions on the left and on the right, and how long each angle is, because it knows that the architect at the city council needs this information. You see, but if you simply need the design, you don't need to know the particular angles or how the soil in this particular is, because it doesn't matter to you. But the city council cares. You see, so you've been specific about the output format. So the thing about prompt engineering is what it's trying to do is get you to be very specific on what you want and how you want it, and be explicit on your needs. So that's what it is really. So that's the thing. That's the basic gist about prompt engineering, where you have a task, you need to specify the task, the role, the context, and maybe the guidelines. So you could come and ask that, okay, yeah, but there's so many times where I'm just asking trivial stuff and I want to ask all of this. And that's valid because, look, even I don't have these 5 sections in every prompt that I ask, but there's certain areas that are like main. So you need to give it a task and you need to give it the context. Context is the holy grail when it comes to prompt engineering, because when you lack context, it's going to give you something that's very vague. Another example would be something, I'm going to spend a lot of time on the examples. These are, you could go and say, chat, I'd like to grow my business. Give me tips. Now, chat is going to give you answers. You see, again, it's an answer machine. One thing that is guaranteed is it will give you answers. But it's going to give you answers. Let's say, for instance, if you tell I'd like to grow my business, it's going to give you answers, for instance, in the nature of start social media marketing, do social media marketing, and I don't know, do some dances, start a YouTube channel and stuff like that, you know, which is valid. It's not wrong. It's very valid. You know, that stuff actually pushes the needle. Except, what if your target audience is people in their 60s? You know, people that don't really care for YouTube, people that might use TikTok, but maybe not that deep. You get people that spend most of their time on Facebook. So you see, or maybe they're even offline. You know, your people are in the rural areas that you're targeting. And let's go back and say that you're running a fashion business that's running in somewhere deep in Mwanza. You see, but like it's telling you about social media strategies, which are in fact correct, but they're not correct for you. But you have not given it context. You see, so that's why context matters. So you need to go back to your prompt and say, chat, I run a fashion business that is operating in Mwanza and targets 50 to like 70-year-olds that spend most of their time offline and have a low income of about maybe to like 20 to 30K that they could possibly spend on clothes. Suggest growth strategies for this particular market and this particular business. You have given it context on your target customers, on the type of marketing and their location and their behavior, which means it's going to give you something that's very specific, which is how it's going to end up telling you, oh no, set up signposts. You see, because maybe these people are offline and what they need to see is a signpost and not an Instagram ad, because the average 75-year-old is not looking at Instagram. You see, which is the importance of context. You need to give context so that people know that, or not that people know, but rather the AI knows that this is the context I'm operating in, this is the scope I'm operating in, let me not get out of this and work within these bounds. Otherwise, it's going to roam free and tell you about how to market a product in the Asian market, because it's just giving you a generic answer because you gave a generic question. You see, so that's how context is important. If you get one thing from this entire session, it's context. You could scrape all of this and just remember this part about context. Give as much context as you can. You know, just coming back to the whole just assignment thing, which is like you could give it an assignment and tell it, oh no, chat, I need to design a project, create a project for me. Yeah, but a project could be in humanities, in sciences, and it could be in different spaces. If it creates a random project and submits it, you're gonna fail and you're gonna say that chat is a terrible thing, but it's like chat is not terrible. You just didn't give it context. Yeah. So anyway, that's enough about context, but that's perhaps the most important part, and we could even close this talk on that particular note, where context is the main thing that you need to take into account and all of that. Go to the next slide.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip this part because it was supposed to be like some practical sessions, but technical issues I won't be able to slide. Okay. So there's this scenario, again, just gonna try and run through different scenarios. I think that's what most of this talk is gonna be about. So this is one point, the do's and don'ts that I talked about. This is mostly the don'ts, the things that you should avoid doing, where sometimes you go to chat again, the student example. You go to chat, you have an assignment that's due in 3 hours. Your lecturer gave you a 3-page document that outlines the assignment that you need to do. And you get this, you give it to chat. And chat gives you an answer for sure. You submit it and you get a 2 out of 30. But see, the problem is you gave it so much information in one go that it gave gaps. So the way AI works right now is that it works like a human being. If I come to Phyllis, for example, and ask her, how long is Lake Malawi? How many tribes are along Lake Malawi? How many fish are in Lake Malawi? How deep is Lake Malawi? What kind of water is in Lake Malawi? How many cultures are along Lake Malawi? And in what country? And how many countries have fought for Lake Malawi? It's gonna be tough for her to give me answers. What she's gonna give me answers to is the first 2 questions and the last 2 questions. In between, she's gonna come back to me and ask me, what other questions did you ask? You see? Because not that she doesn't know the answers to these questions, but rather it's too many questions to ask in one go that she forgets the middle, which is the same way AI operates, at least for now, where it's really good with what's at the beginning and what's at the end, but the middle is a bit hazy. You see? So in the same way, if you go out and give it a super long request, it's going to give you answers, yes, almost about everything else. But as everyone might have experienced at this point, is certain points become shallow. You see? Where the introduction is great, the conclusion is great, but that body is just funny. Like, it's not really meeting the things that you've asked for. So what you want to do is tell it, chat, I have this assignment. I've been given this assignment. I need to write a 20-page essay. This is the document that outlines what this particular essay or project is supposed to do. Let's go through step by step on how we could approach this project. Before you write anything, give me an outline of how you're going to approach this project. So don't let chat go straight into writing it. What you want it to do is, just like any other human being, assume you're a manager, you'd want your subordinate to give you a brief on exactly how they're going to approach this problem. You see? So what you want to do is tell chat, this is the project. Before you write anything else, and you'd actually have to tell it this, like, before you write anything else, can you tell me, or let's explore the way we could approach this particular problem. Give me a step-by-step process on how you're going to approach this. So chat is going to come and give you an outline, maybe like 5 steps or 10 steps on how it's going to approach this. You see? So now it's going to give you an outline, a much better outline. Okay, this is a project it's asking for. Okay, how do we assemble a car? You see? So if you tell it how to assemble a car, it might tell you, oh no, yeah, design the car and here's the car. If you ask it in one go, you see? But if you tell it a step-by-step process, it's going to tell you, no, you design the car, you do the fabrication, you put in the engine, you put in the electronics, you do X, Y, and Z, and all of those other stuff. You see? So it's going to give you that outline. And then after it gives you that outline, you said, okay, let's go through step by step in answering this question. So it tackles point 1, point 2, point 3, and so on and so forth, which allows you to be extensive on each and every part. You see? So just like any other human being, in the same way I'd ask a human being, like, let's say I asked Phyllis, I asked her these many questions. Even if she did grasp all of these questions, some of her answers are gonna be mid because she's trying to focus on like giving me answers than giving me comprehensive and correct answers because I've asked her so many questions. The point is to give answers and maybe not the most correct or comprehensive answers. And that's the same way AI works. So what you want to do is have it do things in a step-by-step manner. So two important things, just recollecting on this, is context is very important, and asking chat or asking any AI to really to think in a step-by-step manner is going to give you the best results. So, firstly, before it writes anything, as long as you know that whatever it is that you're doing is extensive, before it does anything, tell it to give you what you think, what it thinks is the best approach. You review that approach, and then it implements this approach because it's going to follow this guideline. You see? So, back to the whole thinking companion and answer machine. You'd want this to be a thinking machine, a thinking companion. That way you can evaluate the things it's suggesting and see whether it's right or wrong before it's written 30-page documents. So yeah, that's about it. I think on when it comes to like context and outlines and getting the most out of AI. Please go to the next slide. I'm not too sure what's on it though. Next slide. Yeah. Again, next slide. I think I've shared the wrong presentation. Yeah, the 5S model. So basically, the 5S model, I think because of time, but the 5S model is basically just capturing the same things that we talked about in how you do prompt engineering, which is like it's just a different version of doing the same thing, which is like you set the scene, tell the chatbot what role you'd like it to take, so it can provide you a better or more targeted answer. Be specific on your instructions. Clearly define what you want the chatbot to do or provide and important details. Simplify your language. Don't get or verbose on certain things unnecessarily and give complex language because you're just going to confuse the AI. Again, imagine that this AI thing is a human being. If you approach a human being and start spitting complex lingo, yeah, they're not going to like you and they're probably not going to give you the best response. So try and avoid that. And then finally, okay, maybe not finally, but like share the output, structure the output, sorry, tell it what kind of output you want. Do you want this in a table? Do you want this in bullet format? Do you want this as paragraphs? And then share feedback, which is if it gives you the correct answer, reinforce it, and tell them, no, that's what I want. Again, the way you want to deal with AI is in a managerial or human, like where you know how when somebody does something right, when somebody does a certain task right, and you tell them, you know what, that's great, that's actually what I want, they proceed to give you the correct things in the format that you want them to be, which is the same thing with AI, which is like when it does things in the correct way, and you said, oh yeah, thanks, that's actually what I wanted, it knows and learns that, okay, this is the way I'm supposed to provide these particular documents. You get? So that's the way you'd like to do this. So again, just coming back, context, step-by-step thinking, some of the best things you could do. And what else? I guess the 5S model, which also captures just the prompt engineering concept of it all. Please go to the next slide.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah. Next slide. Okay, so two recommendations. So as we've all used ChatGPT. Again, unfortunately, because of some technical troubles, I won't be able to like show you exactly how most of these tools work. But these are the tools that I often use. You see, they might actually be in the opposite order. So we could actually start from the right, going left. I personally don't use ChatGPT as much because of the type of stuff that I do. So not that it's raw, it's bad or anything. No, Chat is great, except these tools cater for different use cases. So I use Claude a lot. So for me, Claude is that how we all have that one friend to whom when we chat anything, you talk to them about anything and they turn everything into a serious conversation. That's Claude. And it's a good and a bad thing, which is like, sure, when we have to talk about smart and professional stuff and all of that stuff, that's great. But when we're just chatting about, when we're just talking about, when we just small talk, you don't really want to do that. And that's where chat comes in. So for me, I use Claude a lot because it's a very logical tool. So if you're doing things like, let's say, software development or anything that requires a lot of logic, I highly, highly recommend Claude. If there's anything that has to do with calculations and all of that other stuff, please, please go to Claude. ChatGPT is great, and it does so. Just tracking back to the beginning of this, is all of these tools share, or at least most of them share functionality. They almost all do the same things, except each one of them is better than one thing at the other. So Claude is a very logical thing, but when you need things that are rather casual, or you need a better human interaction, chat is the best place to be. You see, so if you deal with things that are maybe in the humanities space, in, let's say, a marketing space, you want to chat to ChatGPT. You see, you can also ask it for logical stuff, but it leans more on the human interaction part. It's very much optimized for conversation. You can have better conversations with chat than you would with Claude. But if you're doing a lot of logical stuff, I'd highly recommend you use Claude, because Claude has a lot of tools inbuilt that caters for such stuff. And then back to the whole student example where you have an assignment, you need to do the assignment. The problem with Chat and Claude even is you ask it, it's gonna give you answers, correct answers, except your lecture needs sources. You see, so Chat right now has something called web search, which allows it that when you ask it a question, it goes and searches for things and gives you answers with references. And this is great, except a tool that is much, much better than ChatGPT and Claude at this particular task is Perplexity. You see? So what Perplexity is essentially Google with AI on top of it. So Perplexity doesn't, unlike Chat, doesn't just come up with answers from what it already knows. It goes out and searches what's on the internet, puts all of that together, and gives you an answer. And for each and every line that it has given you, it tells you where it got that answer from. You see? So unlike Chat that is synthesizing knowledge and information that it already knows, and sometimes we both know that Chat just cooks up things that don't even exist. You see? But Perplexity has references on each and every line to sources from which it got this particular information. So when you ask Perplexity something, it's gonna go first and foremost, not even like search its knowledge. It's gonna first and foremost search, okay, what does the internet say? What knowledge is out there? And then come back and give you the answers and tell you line 1, 2, 3 is linked to references 3, 4, and 5, and 6, 7, and 8, and all of that other stuff. So each and every line of knowledge in Perplexity is linked to an external source, so you know where you're getting from. So this is really great for research, maybe at the beginning, at the end, depending on how you do your research. So Perplexity is one of those really great tools when you want to do research, because it gives you sources and you can verify the sources and check the legitimacy of them. Because if it gives you an answer that is full of Wikipedia sources, we all know that in academia this doesn't hold. So you might want to scrape all of that. So what you want to do is, like, you look at the sources that it's given you and vet them and see that, okay, maybe I might take this line because it comes from a legitimate source from like an Oxford or whatever library. You get. And then NotebookLM, it's a shame that I can't display NotebookLM, because I often like to display NotebookLM because of its capabilities. They're best shown as I work through them, but yeah, things, situations aren't allowing. So NotebookLM to me is a student's best friend. It's my best friend, at least, when it comes to like studying and anything of that sort. Where one of the issues, like, I have a hard time studying most of the times, and most of it is because, not that I might be lazy. I just have things that have higher priorities over school, unfortunately. Hope my parents don't hear that. But um, my issue is, most of the times, like, I know I have 50 PowerPoint presentations, each with 50 slides, and I'm not about to get into all of that, you know. And as it approaches exams, it's like I'm still kind of scared. Not scared per se, but it's like I'm just anxious about it all and I don't want. And then I end up studying like the night before the exams. Not because I didn't want to, but because it all just spooked me and I was afraid of it. But what helps most of the times is when you have a gist of what's going on in those slides of that content that the lecturer has given, it helps you get into it better. You know how lecturers always say, "Oh no, study before the class. It helps." And that one time that we've all done it, and you're like, "No, no, it's like, this is actually pretty helpful." Except we never do it afterwards. That's what Notebook LM helps with, where you get all of that content, you put it in Notebook LM, and it gives you an overview of everything. You see, so you get all these documents, put them in. So let's say, for instance, I'm studying like software engineering, and out of my courses is something like cryptography and things of that nature. I don't know anything about cryptography, at least so far. Hopefully, at the end of the semester, but I'll take that content. Let's say it has 15 slides each with like 50 slides each, and put it in Notebook LM, and I can tell Notebook LM, give me an overview of each and every one of these slides. So what Notebook LM is going to do is it's going to give me a one pager for each and every one of these, which means I could go and just skim through all of this. In fact, it could give me a one pager of the entire semester, or maybe a two page of the entire semester, so I know exactly what the entire semester has talked about. You see? But one of the biggest things for me personally, as a student that's doubling school and work, is that Notebook LM is able to generate podcasts on the go. So that for me is a big winner because I'm always on the go. I'm always like going up and down. Either I'm walking to class or I'm going to work or I'm doing work. So listening to a podcast about my classes is very, very helpful. You see? So what I want to do is like passively learn a lot of things so that since I know that I'm definitely going to procrastinate, I want that the night before the exams, I know a thing or two. You see? So if I repeat this podcast so many times, they're going to stick in my head. They're not everything, but they're something enough to get me a good grade. So what not Perplexity, but rather Notebook LM does is you could give it all this content, and then it proceeds to generate all these podcasts for you on the go for the different topics that you might be tackling, and then you're able to like study things in a passive manner. You're on the bus, you're driving, or maybe not driving. I don't recommend reading and driving, but as you're in the motion or going somewhere else, what you want to do is maybe study things passively. So Notebook LM allows you to do this. So not just from a student level, from anyone that does a lot of knowledge work, from lawyers to people maybe in like humanities that have to face so many documents, you could give it to Notebook LM. It generates a podcast. It gives you an overview of the things you're working with. It gives you a one pager. It gives you an executive review, or it could just create a mind map and some diagrams of how everything connects to each other. So this allows you to do all that. So these for me are like my 4 main recommendations for tools you could use on a day-to-day. Primarily for me, speaking from my perspective, is Claude is what I use the most. Notebook LM comes second because I'm a student second, and then ChatGPT because of some other things that I need to do, and then thirdly Perplexity for one or two research papers that I might need to do every other semester. So these are the tools that I recommend that everyone use because they're very helpful. Claude is the highest one. Again, I'm going to come back to it because Claude can create so many things on the go. You could go to Claude and tell it, create an Excel sheet for this, create a PDF for this, generate a diagram for this, come up with a mind map for this. It's going to create all of these things on the go, and it allows you to do so many things in an instant. One of the major things with it too is the visual part of it. It can create a lot of visuals because it has something called a canvas, so it allows you to do a lot of those things in that space. So just wrapping up, I think just coming back to it all again, I'm going to repeat this again. Context, the most important things you could do with with AI, step-by-step thinking that helps you guide the AI or make it guide itself in getting the best outputs. Finally, I think these particular tools they could be in different orders for you, depending on the kind of work that you do. For me, I do a lot of logical work, so I lean on the Claude. Every other stuff could go into ChatGPT, and Notebook LM for anyone that's doing highly intensive knowledge work. Yeah, I think that wraps up, I think, most of the things that I wanted to cover in this particular talk. So if you have questions, Phyllis, if you have any questions, I think you can shoot.
All right. Great. Such a great presentation too. Thank you so much. It's been very informative, and I have learned a lot as well. I mean, I thought I knew anything, but I didn't.
Awesome.
So, I think one of the things that kind of stands out for me is the prompt engineering. It's something that I've had to work with a lot because I'm a student as well. So, in one of my classes, actually, there was an introduction to someone who wrote a paper that says, beware of bots. So it says, how the epistemic rate of generating chatbots. This is something that I really like actually, because it's about how, as you were saying, if you kind of outsourcing your thinking to AI, you're really just giving it. But say what you want to hear, not really the facts. Like, it's not really gonna give you the facts. It's just gonna tell you what you want to hear. So what they say is like this toxic cycle where you give some BS and it gives you back some BS back. So that was something that's kind of the highlight that you were saying in the beginning. And the other thing also context and knowing which who or what. So because I was also recently setting up a business and I was having to look how I can like strategize the business, how I can affect my plans, how I can like I even went as far as in the design of how like I want to fulfill the look and all those things. I mean, it was a great experience, but the way I was engineering my prompt wasn't really the best.
Yeah.
But some funny results here and there. I had to try a few tools to kind of see what worked well. Overall, I think for me, like I really like to do the kind of the endless possibilities of what you can do with these AI tools. I love Notebook LM as well. For when I study, I'm also like working and listening to my class while I work. So for me to multitask because of that. So because of time as well, like when you talk about these tools, when you talk about AI and everything, there's always laws that's coming up like, oh, how to do this, how to do that, how do you think about this? But I think because of time, we're just gonna have to wrap it up. So yeah, like if anyone has questions, you can ask in the comments or you can comment on the YouTube video and see if it's gonna respond.
Yeah, so I think, wow, I think if anyone else has questions, I think they can shoot them in the chat like we've said. So I just wanted to emphasize on like the prompt engineering part of things, where this is information that is relevant, has been relevant, is relevant, and is probably going to be relevant for the foreseeable future. Hopefully it's going to get optimized out. It's one of those things where one of those knowledge pieces where it's like, this is important now, but I hope it gets invalidated so that the experience is much better. But the point I'd like to put across is, this is information that is valid regardless of any tool that you use, whether you're using ChatGPT, whether you're using Perplexity, whether you're using Notebook LM, whether you're using Claude, or whether you're doing, let's say, video generation, image generation, or presentation generation. Any and everything that you're doing, prompt engineering matters. And context, those things where context and the task matters, because it helps you put the AI in the best place. So I think one point that I think I forgot to mention in part is, think of this every time you ask ChatGPT in the part about the role. Think about it in the same way where when you have a question about anything really in life, you ideally want to ask that one person that you think is very knowledgeable about the topic. If you have a legal question, you go and ask a lawyer. If you have an architecture question, you go and ask such architect friend. If you have software questions, you go and ask that software developer friend. Except now, you could spin these people up on the fly because none of us have lawyer friends, none of us have architect friends, none of us have software dev friends. Except with chat, we have all of this. So what you want to do is tell chat that yeah, you're the best architect in the world. You are the best marketing professional in the world. You are the best software engineer in the world. Can you tell me about this, this, and that? And it's gonna create whatever it is that you want. Also, something that might have ethical questions is how some of us have mentors, digital mentors, where we haven't exactly met them, but they're just people online that is like, what, this person inspires me. Maybe let me listen to them more. What you could do with Notebook LM takes in as part of its context is it takes in YouTube videos. So if you have this particular mentor that is online, maybe they're from the West or wherever it is that they stay, and they've done so many podcasts, you could just go on YouTube and take all the podcasts that they've done, feed it into Notebook LM, and ask Notebook LM, what would this particular person do? You see? So now it's answering your question based off of the knowledge you've given it. So let's say your mentor, hypothetically, is Mark Zuckerberg. You go and add all these podcasts that is done to Notebook LM, and that's Notebook LM. In this particular situation, what would Mark Zuckerberg do? And it's going to give you an answer. He's a very random person, but like this, I think, speaks to so many of the people that we might look up to and that might have content online. So yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of Notebook LM, I think the one thing that you mentioned was for us to kind of avoid the very lengthy prompt, which is something that I also noticed with Notebook LM. If I give it, for example, 4 sources or like, I don't know, like documents that are missing, and I generate a podcast, it's going to just highlight very few points from like two of the documents and not think of the other things. And it
Exactly.
kind of keep on repeating the same thing without touching the other stuff that also like that I gave it as well to.
That is very true. I think one of the things that I think they've done lately is that you can now just pick which source out of the, let's say, 5 or 10 sources that you've added. You can pick the specific source that you wanted to generate from. That's the first. Secondly, so it's like you can, out of 10 documents, instead of, I think recently it always just generated from all of the sources, but now you can pick the source. Secondly, what I haven't tried, but they released yesterday or the day before, is you can tell it what length and what depth it should go to on the particular context, on the particular, they just released that I think yesterday or the day before. So I think that's something that's pretty important to take into account too. But yeah, I do agree. I've had those scenarios too, where it's like I ask it to generate a podcast and it keeps repeating the same things that it's been repeating for the last 20 minutes, and it's like, what's the point of all this? But which adds to the fact is like the context part, where you've given it, yes, the documents, but another thing that you could add is like when you're generating the podcast itself, you could give it more context. Like, you know what? I know half the things in these slides. Can you focus on this in this particular area?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I got this interesting comment on LinkedIn when I posted the episode, like when I was kind of telling people to join in.
Okay.
So the comment said, AI is a subset of the Google engine. If you have never used Google search before, understanding AI will take some time.
Okay.
What's your take?
So it's a subset of Google something in that if you've never used Google search engine, is it?
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time to
understanding AI will take some time.
I feel like firstly that person is technical. Which I'm a very technical person too, so no shade to anyone else. But my point is mostly that when I do, let's say, this talk, so I try to avoid speaking to people that are technical, because look, firstly, you're gonna come up with something like that, and who hasn't used Google in big 2025? Like, like the lowest end smartphone in the rural Neno or the rural Jijiba has Google by default. You get? So it's really a reach for somebody to be taking it. It's like, okay, if you haven't used Google, you probably won't understand chat. Which also I feel like somebody would actually have a much better experience using AI than they would using Google. Because if you're somebody that might not have the highest levels of literacy, let's assume that AI understands every language. But let's say you're speaking to AI in Tijewa. If you ask Google a question, it's going to give you results and links that are probably in English. Most likely. I don't think there's much Chichewa resource out there. Chat is going to give you responses in Chichewa, and that is correct, or at least close to whatever it is that is your answer, which renders that line of thought false, because you'd actually have a much better experience using chat than you would using Google, because chat is giving you straight answers. Because talking to chat is as good as talking to a human being, where if I ask you, Phyllis, a question, you give me an answer. You don't tell me, go and look at these 5 sources that I can't even read. You get? So yeah, that's a very false line of thought that I don't agree with. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those. There's a lot of people that are like AI doomers that don't like AI. But as far as I'm concerned, I just feel like you're fighting something that you really can't fight. And I'm not like one of those people that believe, oh no, AI is gonna change the world. It's sure as hell it will change the world, but like to within certain limits. So I believe that it's gonna do so much, but I also don't believe that it's not gonna do anything. It's somewhere there's a sweet middle somewhere in there in between that I think we must all take into account and act like not act like it doesn't exist, nor that it is completely the end all and be all.
Yeah, so I mean, there's not many questions in the comments, but just to close, I recently saw an episode on Diary of the CEO
Mhm.
where they were actually talking about AI taking people's jobs, but due to the rise in AI agents. So they did say that if you have kind of jobs that do things like a lot of manual data entry type things, your jobs are going because they have these AI agents. And the host, Stephen Bartlett, he created an agent that was ordering water or something for his guests, and it's managed to do everything. And the water really came mid episode, and the guy who brought the water had no idea that they did not interact with a human being during the entire process. So, also in the context of Malawi, right? With like the digital divide, how far we are, and everything like that. What do you think? Like AI is taking jobs, but like in the context of Malawi, how should you feel about it?
Look, when it comes to things like taking people's jobs, there's so many angles to it. Again, I've refused to take the route of being in denial. Like for me, it's like I've seen the things that this thing is capable of. Maybe not everything, but I've seen enough to know that it's definitely replacing some people's jobs, even mine. Where I'm a software developer, and that's the part that's funny about all of this. Where this thing is being created by generally software developers, except it's the first job that is being replaced is that of software developers, which is ironic. But I feel like some of the other jobs that are going to be replaced, so those kind of jobs where it's simple and straightforward what we're doing here, where I want food. I've asked you for a KFC Streetwise 3 with chili. That's the end of it. At this point, if I've interacted with ChatGPT so much, I've told it my location, where I stay, and all of that. It's gonna do the delivery and bring it to me. It's hooked up, all of that. That's fancy stuff. That's the future that I'd want to live in. Because it allows me to just talk to my phone, to my computer, or to my smart speaker that, oh, can you order me X, Y, and Z, and it comes to my house. To the Malawian context, I feel like there's certain parts that people are. Firstly, I'm very delusional about a lot of things that I do. Delusional in a manner where not like I don't believe in the things that, or I know that the things that I'm saying are forced. They're not forced for the most part. I just have more faith than most people do in certain things. So, for instance, I feel like a lot of low-level knowledge work is going to be replaced by AI once people figure out how to do it. For instance, Alangizi. There's been an Alangizi program in Malawi for a long time. I don't know how effective. I haven't looked at the data. I just know that they exist. That's as far as I know about them. Is that they exist. There's Alangizi. So the concept of Alangizi, to my knowledge, is that there's a farmer out there who needs help on a particular issue. These Alangizi go in these particular villages, and the farmer is going to talk to them and give them answers and how to deal with this issue. You see, I just feel like most of the knowledge is not very, very unique, that if I could train AI about these particular issues, this farmer could just, in their bed before they wake up and go to the farm, ask and send an SMS, or mbewu yanga yamba maspora black, vuro ni jani, ndewena ndebange jani, and it's going to give you answers, you see. So to me, I feel like this, as I said, there's like jobs that are like that. Like, I feel like it's one of those things where, for the most part, nothing is going to happen and everything is going to happen all at once. You see? Where the point where I was talking about delusion is because everyone that I talk to tells me, oh no, but how is AI going to reach all these people in the rural areas? Oh no, AI has issues with language. It's like, all that is false. Because ChatGPT right now can speak to you in Chichewa. Let's start there. Secondly, you can have a conversation through SMS, because most people are going to be, oh no, but people don't have access to the web or apps. Yeah, sure, that's very true, but they have access to SMS, and there's so many SMS services, because people go, oh no, SMS is expensive. Like, it is, yeah, but there's already so many SMS programs, which means it's a non-issue. You get? So a farmer in a very, very rural area can send an SMS, and the thing is, I think people try and think about it in a negative way, because they think I need to tell the farmer that, oh no, talk to this AI chatbot. It's like, no. Tell the farmer that to me an SMS to *507#. And you don't have to tell the farmer about AI. They don't know, and they don't care. They should not care. All they need to know is that black. They can send an SMS to this particular number and they'll get an answer, and that's it. You see? Yeah. Because the assumption on their end is they're talking to a human being, and that's all there is, and that's all that matters. You see, is that they get answers. Everything else about the tech, about how it looks like, doesn't matter. Which is, I know, even these particular talks that I've been doing, some people have had problems with them. It's like, exactly, what are these things that you're talking about? They're pointless. Everyone's not. It's like, yeah, do you? Sure. You see, that's why I don't have these talks with technical people, because to them it might seem obvious, but it's like, no, this information matters to a lot of people. In the same way, and most people don't care about this whole AI thing. They just want answers to their problems. They just want to do their work quicker. They just want answers to their assignment, and that's all that matters. You see, same thing with this particular problem. So anyway, just backtracking to it, I feel like yes, there are definitely certain jobs that will be taken over because of their nature, and how in my opinion, any job that takes the nature of, let's say, low-level knowledge work, i.e. low CX or customer support looking like jobs, are gonna be gone just like that. You see, which I feel is the nature of the task.
They highlight the job like if you're collecting any sort of data, which made me think of my job, because all I do is collect information all day.
Yeah. And
it could be done by AI somehow.
Look, my job right now is
but it would
but it would.
It could be. There's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, because like, look, even for myself as a software developer, I've been in so many scenarios where it's like, yo, this task that I've been assigned at work today is very difficult, and I talk to Claude, and it's like, oh yeah, here it is. It's been done in like 5 minutes. You get? I do a couple of iterations, and I'm done within an hour or two. So it's like, look,
Yeah.
this is like the second, or we are 2.5 years into AI. We are still very, very early, which means these are like the terrible, terrible versions of AI that we're going to look back at in like 10 years. So if a terrible version of AI can come up with a pretty decent website, yeah, I'm pretty sure my job is being replaced in 5 years. You see? So the exact another example is like, let's say the website that I did for Kachere, for not Kachere, but for like
AI for the rest of us.
AI for the rest of us. You see, every time I need to, like, I was joking at that event. I was joking about how I replaced my friend Chris's job, which is like every time I need a website, I'd need him to do it. Except, I mean, typically it take maybe like a week, 2 weeks, because he also has other priorities besides the task itself.
Yeah.
But like, I just went to Claude and gave it the poster for the event and told it, "Can you generate a website for this?" And the first version was pretty great. You see, I did some iterations, maybe like did 3 iterations, but at the end of the day, that thing at most, I don't think it took that long, but at most took me 5 hours, and it was live. You get? So it's like, all I'm doing is refinement and all of that other stuff. So I have a website and that's live. You see, I'm not talking about an e-commerce website. Those things are very complex. I'm not saying that it's going to replace all of that stuff. But like, if I need a portfolio website, if a certain company needs a website, they don't need to go that deep. You see? And also, just to tell the software developers, maybe your job is not going to be replaced, but the level at which you operate, because at the end of the day, look, I don't think the CEO of the company wants to create a website. They don't care for it. But they're still going to need you, except they're not going to need you and 5 other devs. They're just going to need you specifically because you can do all of it. You get? Because again,
yeah, and
yeah,
like even the episode I was watching, there were these 3 guys, and then one of them said they have downsized their company so much that HR department has like 2 people now, if not 1 person, and they only have to know how to like use the AI agents again. And they're like creating tools or creating whatever for like $20, saving thousands and thousands of like dollars using these AI agents. So
yeah, look, I feel like it works on like 2 ends, which is like, for those that were already interested in creating things, they're gonna do that. But there's also a version where it's like, look, my mom doesn't care about creating an app or a website or whatever. She just wants things made for her. You get? And it's not simply about her age or her generation. There's just a lot of people that simply don't care for these things. So there's those 2 groups, which is like, for those that were already interested, it's gonna be a big thing. So it's like there's gonna be software developers that already existed, plus the people that were interested in creating stuff. And then there's this other end, which honestly couldn't care less. You see? So there's those 2 groups which all are gonna get catered for. So which then comes back to the thing is like, yes, your job is gonna be replaced, but to what extent? So yeah.
All right, this has been great, Steve. And I'd like to thank everyone who watched until the end, despite the technical challenges and the fact that we were late. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you watch the next episode next month. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and goodbye.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye.